Okay, so we are here in Solitude. Unfortunately we arrived at the dead of night and therefore had to take up residence in the Winking Skeever. Now it is morning, we are ready to head out to conduct business. Collecting Nightshade for Ingham Blackbriar, if we ever manage to return there with 20 of them. Not bad. So, the first piece of business is heading to the Bard's College and handing Pantea her flute. Of course, Elwynn is an honorary member of the Bard's College, not a fully fledged member as such, because he doesn't have a lick of musical talent.
You know, the Wikis.
We also have Finn's lute, although that doesn't show up as a quest specifically. So if there's somebody here called Finn, we'll certainly speak with him and see if he's missing a lute. Riarno, Head Bard. Quite a big place, this. Pantea!
Divine smile on your
No, he's definitely not called Finn, is he? Who's in here? Hello! Greetings and salutations! Express delivery!
Solo performance is about a week away.
Inga? And that's not somebody called Finn. Must be upstairs, unless... Ildy, that's not somebody called Finn. What was the chef called? Bent. Nobody in the lecture theatre. Ah.
This time let's try the age of aggression. I will demonstrate for the class. We drink to our youth, to the days come and gone, for the age of oppression is now nearly done. You see, all you need is a bit of spirit, and any song can be made into a classic.
Sorry to interrupt the lecture.
Lady Atia says my voice
It's been my honor to perform at the Blue Palace on many occasions. His late lordship was quite the admirer.
I'm sure he was, but I have some good news for you. I've recovered your flute.
That's it! Wonderful! I knew I could count on you. I don't have any money to give you, but I can show you a few tricks I learned playing for the Winterhold Wizards.
Wow.
Now you can say you've met the most talented bard
Wow.
in Skyrim.
Few can resist my charms. Even fewer are worthy of them.
What do you need, my friend?
Nothing. You've just leveled up all of my schools of magic. I have nothing more that I would like to say other than a great big thank you very much.
And it isn't music.
Pleasure doing business indeed. Wow. That's quite the quest reward. A level up in illusion, destruction, restoration, alteration and enchanting. Thank you, Pantea. It's a good job I came and give her a loot, isn't it? So definitely a quest reward that Elwynn's extremely happy with. So that's one piece of business taken care of here in Solitude. The second piece of business is to see how much... Oh!
You can just call me Erica's sister. Everyone does.
I was actually considering buying a house here, but I seem to remember, it's bringing back memories now, that it was quite expensive. Was it like 20,000 gold or something ridiculous? You know, I'll leave the house part. I was considering buying the house, but I think I changed my mind now. Actually, I seem to recall. I seem to recall it was very pricey. Well, we got some nightshade as well, so that's a side bonus. So with the business conducted here at Solitude, we move on to our next destination. This is a session full of travels. We have taken care of the Shrine of Boethia. We have now... oh, sorry, excuse me, I'm looking at my book and not looking where I'm going. Walked into the wall. We have returned Pantea's flute, so the final place where we're going to go is the Rift. Because we need to speak with Froki to tell him that we've taken care of all the guardian animals. We need to return to Vikel for some reason or other, I can't remember what. And we need to head to the Greybeards. Now, Iverstead can be accessed from the Rift. So, yeah, it seems to me as if the Rift is the best place to go next. A couple of quest hand-ins, and then we can progress the main quest line by heading up to the throat of the world. And we've got about 20 minutes of the session left, so that should just fill us up nicely. Elwyn's furious. Well, my heart is bleeding profusely at that news. Mr. Carriage Man, good of you to wait around.
Need a ride?
Yes, please.
Where do you want to go?
Me? I want to now go to Riften.
Climb and back and we'll be off.
Don't mind if I do.
Get up there.
It's a busy life, isn't it, being the Archmage? Being an envoy and a voice for the college. Although we're not doing much college work, to be perfectly frank with you. But we are trying. Well, I hear Elwynn is trying to raise the reputation. All the good deeds that he does not only for his own personal glory, but it's that ability to say, well, I am the Archmage of the college. It is I, yes, who saved those children from the burning building, you know? Some people would probably believe that I set the building on fire. Being a mage and all that, you know, nasty mage type. Okay, so we have one quest in the Riften city itself. And that is returning to Vikel, so we'll do that first. Now, where is Vikel? Where is Vikel? Vehicle? Where art thou? Just be careful, Elwynn. Don't be doing anything foolish.
How fast can you get your hands on?
Really? Return to Vic. Okay, so it's asking me to go into the rat way. I'm just double checking. I can't even. I don't even have the foggiest clue what this quest I'm returning is. It's just a total mind blank. Complete and utter mind blank where what I'm doing here, what I'm returning. Hello there! Oh, excuse me.
You'd better have coin to pay for your drinks. There's no handouts here.
Yeah, okay. Yes, Arundel. Does your name ring a bell?
Only rumors. He used to have a home in Dawnstar until they burned it down. The people say he was doing unspeakable experiments on reanimation. Rituals only a necromancer would perform. After he made for Ingvild, he was never heard from again.
Well, I have happened to recovered all of Arundel's journals. And have put him to judgment.
Good. I was hoping you hadn't forgotten about it. As promised, here's your payment for bringing them to me. Got it as part of a fair trade from my client.
Dwarven Mace of Thunderbolts. So as you can see there, we obviously have stumbled across that quest by exploration, and it would have been a quest that would have been given to us if we'd have asked the right questions of the right people. But it does not matter. We have the reward anyway. We've taken care of a sick necromancer. All is well. That's another one off my list. Can cross that off, which leaves us 2 more things to do today. Return to Froki, and then go to the throat of the world. And then we're done. Just bear with me a second, folks.
Jewelry with legendary Argonian craftsmanship.
Why take a chance?
Right. As we head out to our next destination, which is not a million miles away, but it's a bit of a trek. All the way over there. Whilst we were resting and recuperating and practicing over in the college, in between all of that, as per usual, we read a few books. Elwynn choosing to catch up on his readings. And there's a book series that he's had for some time that he's just never got round to reading. It just so happens that those books are penned by one of his favourite authors, good old Wowgin Jarth, and he's started off reading them. It is the Argonian account. I think there's 3 books. Could be wrong, but I think there's 3. And he's read the first one. So as we make our way over to Froki's destination, and if necessary beyond that, up to Iverstead and to the Greybeard's location, we shall listen to the Argonian account. Okay, so there's been a slight change of plan. I'm not going to be walking. Shut up! I don't want to listen to your ramblings, I'm not in the mood. Yeah, this is there's a slight change of plan. Initially, as I just highlighted, we were going to listen to the story of the Argonian account as we walk to Froki's hut to hand in the quest. However, en route to Froki's hut, On 3 occasions, the game has frozen and crashed. Pretty much in the same spot, which is rather annoying, and it's really beginning to bug me now. I've tried clearing the cache, I've tried deleting old saves and keeping saves to a minimum. I'm beginning to become at a loss now as to what to do to solve this problem. It's just all of a sudden seemed to have cropped up. One suggestion which I might try as a last resort is just to constantly rest and advance the time a certain amount of days, because after a certain amount of days all the loot that you've left behind and things that are left in the game as you drop them and stuff, which those things disappear after a certain amount of time. So by resting that many days it sort of clears the game of clutter. That's the final thing to try, but this is absolutely ridiculous. You know, 100 odd hours into the game and it's now starting to play up on me, and it's really beginning to get me down. Anyway, enough about that. What I'm going to do now is, because it's crashed on me 3 times in the same spot, I'm hoping that if I fast travel to Froki's hut and then walk from the hut to Ivarstead and subsequently up to the throat of the world, that might just solve a little bit of the problem. So we're going to fast travel here and then walk from here to the throat of the world, and we'll have the story of the Argonian account as we're walking to the Greybeard's location. Ah dear. I also recorded the initial part of this session yesterday. I got so miffed off with the game crashing yesterday at the end of the session that I turned the game off, and I've come after work today, sat down to try it again. It's crashed another couple of times, so really is beginning to get on my wires. Hello there, mister. I return with some news.
Need something?
Yes, I defeated the Guardians, as you suggested.
Maybe you're not so soft after all. Now you're ready for a real challenge.
Real challenge?
I'll anoint you with the symbol of the bear, the saber cat, and the mammoth. Tread carefully. These are mighty beasts. Here's where you need to go.
You are joking. You are joking. I thought I'd be done. It is sending me off again to kill 3 more guardian beasts? Why do you do this to me? So the guardian sabercat is actually right near Winterhold. That shouldn't be a problem. The guardian mammoth is in the tundra of Whiterun. Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem. And where are bears prevalent? Bears tend to be prevalent more in the Rift, from what I've seen. I wonder if the guardian bear's there, no? Nope. The guardian bear is here, in the area round Falkreath. Well, I have another 2 quests down here, so in the not too distant future I imagine we might be coming down here. Okay. So I'll bear those locations in mind if we happen to be travelling nearby. We have some guardian creatures to kill. But we're not going to engage in that now, because we have things to do. Far more important things, like speak to the Greybeards. So, I'm going to try again, and hopefully the game won't crash on me, because if it does, the whole damn disc might fly out my window. So, as we go towards the Greybeard's location at the top of the mountain, which name escapes me, High Hrothgar, whatever it's called, we're going there, and we're going to try and walk there, whilst listening to the Argonian account. Enjoy. The Argonian Account, Book 1, by Walgin Jarth. In a minor but respectable plaza in the Imperial City sat, or perhaps lounged, Lord Vanek's building commission. It was an unimaginative, austere building, not noted so much for its aesthetic or architectural design as for its prodigious length. If any critics wondered why such an unornamented, extended erection held such fascination for Lord Vanek, they kept it to themselves. In the 398th year of the Third Era, Decimus Scotti was a senior clerk at the Commission. It had been a few months since the shy, middle-aged man had brought Lord Vanek the most lucrative of all contracts, granting the Commission the exclusive right to rebuild the roads of Valenwood, which had been destroyed in the 5-Year War. For this, he had become the darling of the managers and the clerks, spending his days recounting his adventures more or less faithfully, although he did omit the ending of the tale, since many of them had partaken in the celebratory Unthrapper roast provided by the Celestry. Informing one's listeners that they've gorged on human flesh improves very few stories of any good taste. Scotty was neither particularly ambitious nor hard-working, so he did not mind that Lord Vanek had not given him anything to actually do. Whenever the squat little gnomish man would happen upon Decimus Scotty in the offices, Lord Vanek would always say, "You're a credit to the Commission. Keep up the good work." In the beginning, Scotty had worried that he was supposed to be doing something, but as the months went on, he merely replied, "Thank you, I will." There was on the other hand the future to consider. He was not a young man, and though he was receiving a respectable salary for someone not doing actual work, Scotty considered that soon he might have to retire and not get paid for not doing work. It would be nice, he decided, if Lord Vanek, out of gratitude for the millions of gold the Valenwood contract was generating, might deign to make Scotty a partner, or at least give him a small percentage of the bounty. Decimus Scotty was no good at asking for things like that, which was one of the reasons why, previous to his signal successes in Valenwood as a senior clerk for Lord Atreus, he was a lousy agent. He just about made up his mind to say something to Lord Vanek when his lordship unexpectedly pushed things along. "You're a credit to the Commission," the waddling little thing said, and then paused. "Do you have a moment free on your schedule?" Scotty nodded eagerly and followed his lordship to his hideously decorated and very enviable hectare of office space. "Zenithar blesses us for your presence at the Commission," the little fellow squeaked grandly. "I don't know whether you know this, but we're having a bad time before you came along. We had impressive projects for certain, but they were not successful. In Black Marsh, for example, for years we've been trying to improve the roads and other routes of travel for commerce. I put my best man, Flessus Tijo, on it every year. Despite staggering investments and time and money, the trade along those routes only gets slower and slower. Now we have your very clean, very, very profitable Valenwood contract to boost the Commission's profits. I think it's time you were rewarded." Scotty grinned a grin of great modesty and subtle avarice. "I want you to take over the Black Marsh account from Flessus Tijo." Scotty shook as if awakening from a pleasant dream to a hideous reality. "My lord, I couldn't." "Nonsense," chirped Lord Vanek. "Don't worry about Tijo. He will be happy to retire on the money I give him, particularly as soul-wrenchingly difficult as this Black Marsh business has been. Just your sort of a challenge, my dear Decimus." Scotty couldn't utter a sound, though his mouth feebly formed the word "no," as Lord Vanek brought out the box of documentation on Black Marsh. "You're a fast reader," Lord Vanek guessed. "You can read it all en route." "En route to—" "Black Marsh, of course," the tiny fellow giggled. "You are a funny chap. Where else would you go to learn about the work that's been done, and how to improve it?" The next morning, the stack of documentation hardly touched, Decimus Scotty began the journey southeast to Black Marsh. Lord Vanek had hired an able-bodied guard, a rather taciturn red guard named Malik, to protect his best agent. They rode south along the Niben, and then southeast along the Silverfish, continuing on into the wilds of Cyrodiil, where the river tributaries had no names, and the very vegetation seemed to come from another world than the nice civilized gardens of the northern imperial province. Scotty's horse was tied to Malik so the clerk was able to read. It made it difficult to pay attention to the path they were taking, but Scotty knew he needed at least a cursory familiarity with the Commission's business dealings in Black Marsh. It was a huge box of paperwork going back 40 years, when the Commission had first been given several million in gold by a wealthy trader, Lord Zelicles Pinos Rabina, to improve the condition of the road from Gideon to Cyrodiil. At that time, it took 3 weeks, a preposterously long time for the rice and root he was importing to arrive half-rotten in the Imperial province. Pinos Ravina was long dead, but many other investors over the decades, including Pelagius Septim V himself, had hired the commission to build roads, drain swamps, construct bridges, devise anti-smuggling systems, hire mercenaries, and in short, do everything that the greatest empire in history knew would work to aid trade with Blackmarsh. According to the latest figures, the result of this was that it took 2.5 months for goods, now thoroughly rotten, to arrive. Scotty found that when he looked up after concentrating on what he was reading, the landscape had always changed, always dramatically, always for the worse. "This is Blackwood, sir," said Malik to Scotty's unspoken question. It was dark and woodsy, so Decimus Scotty thought that a very appropriate name. The question he longed to ask, which in due course he did ask, was, "What's that terrible smell?" "Slough Point, sir," Malik replied as they turned the next bend, where the umbrageous tunnel of tangled tree and vine opened to a clearing. There squatted a cluster of formal buildings in the dreary imperial design favoured by Lord Vannack's commission and every emperor since Tiber, together with a stench so eye-blindingly, stomach-wrenchingly awful that Scotty wondered suddenly if they were deadly poisonous. The swarms of blood-coloured sand-grain-sized insects obscuring the air did not improve the view. Scotty and Malik batted at the buzzing clouds as they rode their horses towards the largest of the buildings, which on approach revealed itself to be perched at the edge of a thick black river. From its size and a serious aspect, Scotty guessed it to be the census and excise office for the wide white bridge that stretched across the burbling dark water to the reeds on the other side. It was a very nice, bright, sturdy-looking bridge, built, Scotty knew, by his commission. A poxy, irritable official opened the door quickly on Scotty's first knock. Come in, quickly! Don't let the flesh flies in!" "Flesh flies?" Decimus Scotty trembled. "You mean they eat human flesh?" "If you're fool enough to stand around and let them," the soldier said, rolling his eyes. He had half an ear, and Scotty, looking around at the other soldiers in the fort, noted that they were all well chewed. One of them had no nose at all to speak of. "Now what's your business?" Scotty told them, and added that if they stood outside the fortress instead of inside, they might catch more smugglers. "You'd better be more concerned with getting across that bridge," the soldier sneered. "Tide's coming up, and if you don't get a move on, you won't get to Blackmarsh for 4 days." That was absurd. A bridge swamped by a rising tide on a river? Only the look in the soldier's eyes told Scotty he wasn't joking. Upon stepping out of the fort, he saw that the horses, evidently tired of being tortured by the flesh flies, had ripped free of their restraints and were bounding off into the woods. The oily water of the river was already lapping on the planks oozing between the crevices. Scotty reflected that perhaps he would be more than willing to endure a wait of 4 days before going to Blackmarsh, but Malik was already running across. Scotty followed him, wheezing. He was not in excellent shape, and never had been. The box of commission materials was heavy. Halfway across he paused to catch his breath, and then discovered he could not move. His feet were stuck. The black mud that ran through the river was a thick, gluey paste, and having washed over the plank Scotty was on, it held his feet fast. Panic seized him. Scotty looked up from his trap and saw Malik leaping from the plank to plank ahead of him, closing fast on the reeds on the other side. "Help!" Scotty cried. "I'm stuck!" Malik did not even turn around, but kept jumping. "I know, sir. You need to lose weight." Decimus Scotty knew he was a few pounds over, and had meant to start eating less and exercising more, but embarking on a diet hardly seemed to promise timely aid in his current predicament. No diet on Nirn would have helped him just then. However, on reflection, Scotty realised that the Red Guard intended that he drop the box of documents, for Malik was no longer carrying any of the essential supplies he had with him previously. With a sigh, Scotty threw the box of commission notes into the glop, and felt the plank under him rise 1/4 of an inch, just enough to free him from the mud's clutches. With an agility born of extreme fear, Scotty began leaping after Malik, dropping onto every third plank and springing up before the river gripped him. In 46 leaps, Decimus Scotty crashed through the reeds onto the solid ground behind Malik, and found himself in Blackmarsh. He could hear behind him a slurping sound as the bridge, and his container of important and official records of Commission affairs was consumed by the rising flood of dark filth, never to be seen again. And here we are. This place is just a tad further away than I remembered, but, well, good timing. High Hrothgar awaits. What will the Greybeards have to say about the news that we bring them? Find out next time as I take my potent Storm Atronach companion inside and find out what they have to say. So until next time, see you soon.